How can you heal from emotional trauma? How can you let go of these feelings that are trapped inside you that are keeping you from healing? Welcome to Truth or Trend, where Dr. Vrzal and I try to find the best options for everybody out there and make sure we're sharing with you what we find works clinically and also steeped in the science. And today we're so excited that we finally got Dr. Rebecca Sanders with us this morning because we always have this monthly meeting. She's one of our foundational members of our monthly mastermind group where we all get together and look at each other's blind spots and try to make each other the best we can be. And inevitably, at the end of those sessions, Dr. Rebecca always says, hey, let's remember there's an emotional piece that we should probably be talking about here. And today she's going to talk about emotion code and spinal energy flow. Is that what it is?
Spinal Flow Technique.
Spinal Flow Technique. I'm going to be learning. I'm going to be listening most of the time today, but we've got some really exciting things and some wonderful solutions and action things that you can learn today, things that you can observe in yourself and the people that you love to help you become the best version you can. So, right. Dr. V, what do you think? Do we got a good guest today or what?
I'm so looking forward to hearing this. And as we were mentioning before we went on camera, we all three of us have slightly different ways of dealing with emotions. So this is going to be a very broad-orbed picture of how we can deal with emotions and how they affect us physically and what we can do about it, most importantly. Because, I mean, with Truth or Trend, we're all about sharing pearls that people can, as you mentioned, use to change and improve their lives and the lives of those around them and those they love. So let's dive in and figure out how we can be better human beings.
The timing couldn't be better, Dr. Rebecca. We're ready for you to take over. I made you the host to bring this present. She even made a presentation for everybody out there today. And it just so happens the timing is perfect because she had a video that went viral on Instagram. It was showing what she's doing. And so the trolls are coming. I mean, we're excited. I can't wait to talk to those guys. Take it away, Dr. Rebecca. Tell us what everybody out there needs to hear who is watching this when it comes to emotional healing.
Emotional healing, there's always an aspect of energy and emotional healing with every modality that we use. So nutrition, chiropractic, anything that you're doing to get better always has an emotional component to it, whether you're conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
And in our field, we're very holistic and we look at the entire being. We are always looking to improve, not just the symptom. Like, yeah, we don't want bad symptoms, but we want to feel better, be more vital. So this emotional energy healing is a vital component. And I'm excited to shed light on how we're already doing it.
I want to let you roll with it and share your presentation, but just to substantiate what you're saying, I dose for the amount of supplements a person needs or the number of tablets and that sort of thing with every single visit. And my dose numbers are very low because I treat the emotional component first. I know even a lot of presenters and things like that are, talking about handfuls and high numbers of supplements. When I clear the emotional stuff, we get down to, 1 or 2 pills instead of, 10. So, and there is a lot of valuable research that demonstrates clearing the emotional, getting the emotional triggers out of the way allows the physiology, allows the body to function better so that it is less dependent on these high numbers of supplements.
That's worth watching right there, Doc, right? There's all the practitioners out there because that's the number one thing to hear. Oh, too many pills. And
that's exactly what I experienced in my practice. And I've slowly decreased the amount of supplements and getting to just the core basics of what people need. But also on the flip end, I wanted to mention that detoxes and herbs and supplementation have been a key component in my practice of moving through emotional trauma and also emotional baggage, or just taking your life to the next level because you want to feel better or be more in your purpose. That these herbs are actually catalysts and speed up our dharma or our path and where we want to go.
I remember learning that ashwagandha can actually help with healing from even your family, right? Like ancestral healing is what they would call it. And I remember thinking that blew my mind, that concept, right? That these herbs can do so much to help, like you just said, get you through what's happening. So Okay. Great.
Mm-hmm.
But Dr. V, that whole point, like you just said, if you're not
We're cutting out a little bit.
the emotional piece, then you're trying to overcompensate with either a structural piece or a nutritional herbal piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you are bringing something in that is going to address that, then the demand in that nutrition and herbal category goes down so much. And that's what's so cool, right? Yeah.
Saves you time and money, right?
Right. Exactly. All right, I'm ready to see this presentation.
What techniques do you guys use?
Dr. V, go ahead.
Oh, I use neuro-emotional technique. I use NET, neuro-emotional technique, that Walker uses, merged in with applied kinesiology, and as all three of us do, kind of my version of it.
Right.
I would say streamlined and simplified, but having the emotions associated with the various organs allows me to identify what muscle is going to be weak or compromised and then demonstrate it. So yeah, that helps me and helps demonstrate immediately to the patient. So that is predominantly what I use. Dustin?
Yeah, so same. I was going to say, it's morphed into what I call the strong belief change method, but it was based on.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks. I started out with Psych, which is, Bruce Lipton and Rob Williams' work, and they look at beliefs that are supportive versus beliefs that are not supportive, and that has been a massive game changer for me. And I save it for the end when I'm working with people. We talk about nutrition, we talk about the lifestyle, and I call it the dessert. I say, okay, now we're going to talk about your beliefs, and that's going to change everything right at the end.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very
And
good.
they leave on a happy note.
Oh, absolutely. I remember I had one lady who came to my office because she knew that I did this, and I was trying to, help her with nutrition and all these other things. And I was actually a little frustrated. And I finally said, okay, let's do this. Let's do this Psych, let's sit down. And she stood up and the smile on her face would not leave. She floated out of the office and you could see her smiling as she was driving away, right? Like that was, and she even said it afterwards. She goes, that's what I've been looking for. You know what I mean? And then when you get a moment with somebody, you're like, yes, okay. So it reminded me that I should be doing that with everybody, right? Right away is finding some way to bring that into the conversation for sure.
Awesome. Let's get into my presentation.
Let's do it.
You guys ready? Okay.
I'm ready.
Dun, 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 dun.
Interject at any moment.
Okay, share your screen so
Yep, we got it.
You got it? Good.
Go into presentation mode though.
Yep, there you go. Yeah,
Dr. Rebecca.
Go to slideshow.
Or click on the little
slideshow. Yep. And then after you hit, there you go. Bingo. Now we got it. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me today. After all the trolls, it's just a breath of fresh air to converse freely without being attacked.
We're here to heal the trolls, Dr. Rebecca. We're here for them so that they can show us their pain and we can fill in the cracks with gold, right?
Hopefully by the end, they'll understand what they need here.
Right.
So today I'm going to talk about energy healing. So there's a lot of tension, misunderstanding about what healing is, what energy work is. So I want to drop some truth bombs on how these words, what they actually mean, and some science and research behind it. Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So energy. Yeah, I really went in on this because I was like, oh, just deleting and blocking all weekend in between creating this presentation. So energy is our capacity to do work. And it's about what we hold as potential inside of our body. So the scientific perspective is saying this potential, this energy lives inside of us only. And the metaphysical energetic view is, hey, this energy actually extends outside of us. So this is research from the Heart Math Institute. Hold on. And there's actually,
which is a non-woo-woo, very substantiated, research-based institute.
yes, they're a nonprofit. And
Yeah.
I put all the links on here. You can go ahead and look at the website. And what they showed is that people's heart rates actually sync up, and their heart rate is showing what they're feeling. So I like to break up energy into love and fear, if you had to put it into two categories. And the heart, when feeling love, the beats are more smooth and more ordered, and when in fear is more erratic and disordered. So they did research studies showing that when people held hands, that their hearts synced up and they started feeling similar emotions, were interconnected.
Nice.
And then they did it when they weren't touching hands, they were just in the same room and the same thing happened.
Okay.
So there's
kind of like women that live together and their cycles become similar, huh? Carry on, please.
This is an electromagnetic field and electricity of touch. And this is just more of the study, but furthermore, feeling positive emotions affects our immune system. It affects our community. It affects every cell in our body, what we're feeling. And emotion, the word emotion is energy in motion. Emotions are meant to be always moving. And in the holistic perspective, emotions are not just chemistry, neurotransmitters that are coming from our brain. They are purposely meant to show us the direction that we're meant to be moving. So why even do emotion work at all is because people want to feel more of a spiritual purpose. They want to feel more connected. They don't want to feel alone. They want to have real happiness and joy and feel wholesome. And all of these emotions are catalysts and communicators that show us the direction that we need to be moving in. So these emotions, this can be very taboo emotions because people think, oh, emotions are bad. Like we need to get rid of them. How do I never have a negative emotion again? Right? Where when you go into energy work and you're open to it, every time you have an uncomfortable feeling, we look at it and say, how is this working for me? Right? Just like the trolls that happened to me. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but it ultimately fueled this PowerPoint. So in a holistic perspective, there are waves of energy, and in science, it's merely just chemistry happening to you, giving you weird feelings. Where this is a chart from Dr. Bradley Nelson, the emotion code. Keep going. So every emotion that is stuck, a stuck emotion is one that we are not fully aware of, and it turns into a distortion and it gets stuck. So this is just an example showing how the flow of energy in the body is not even and not congruent and not wholesome. And what is healing? The word healing has a taboo. Oh, you're healed, right? Like there's an
you've arrived.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of traction behind that. So I wanted to bring up the word healing. And in Old English, it means to make whole. The scientific view is simply, oh, we're putting it back together, all set. The energy view is about balance. So it's not about getting rid of or making something perfect, like shiny, brand new again. It's about finding a balance between the physical, chemical, and emotional health.
Yeah. I love this, Dr. Becca. One of the things that I often hear people say in their language is they feel broken or they need to be fixed. And I always want to interject there and say, I don't fix people, and I don't, because if you want me to fix you, that means that I have to see you as broken. I see you as whole, and I want to serve you in your wholeness, right? And that it really kind of messes with people's brains to start thinking that way, but we've been programmed to think in terms of broken and fixing things. But what we truly do is we serve people in their wholeness, which I love was what you're showing here is what we're doing.
Yeah,
And
it's that.
well, healing is an active process. It's a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Healed is a finite period. Like okay, we put the pin on it, and we're done, but it's never done, right? I
Right.
mean, you could be healed and go live on ice cream and be back worse than where you started. So, so healing is a journey, is where I was trying to go with that.
Right. And as long as you want to be alive, it's going to be a part of the journey, right?
Indeed.
That's when the healing ends, actually.
Mhm.
That's why I love doing emotion energy work, because it brings and it taps into that joy, the contentment, the happiness of health, where health can be very regimented and gruesome, work out every day, eat the right
Mm.
foods. And this allows you to tap into, hey, health can be fun and joyful, and it doesn't have to be so breaking your back and do the exercises.
Mhm.
Very wholesome. Now I work, so for the past 6 months, I've been doing spinal flow technique, and I wanted to shed light upon the nervous system and how the cerebral spinal fluid is 99% water. And I've been diving into water and the magic that water holds.
Mm.
And we talk about minerals so much, so I'm so excited to keep going down this rabbit hole of talking about water. Um, have have you guys seen that, like, jelly wigglers? Do you see that in the corner of my screen there?
We used to have those as kids. You try to grab them and they slip through your hands. Those things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put them here because it just reminded me of the cerebral spinal fluid.
Mm.
Because so the spinal flow technique is all about, you use your hands and you put light pressure on the sacrum. And this is where that movement, the viral, that just went viral this weekend, that's where that movement came from.
Okay.
So if you put pressure on one part of that jelly, there's going to
It's gonna move. Oh, I think she froze up on us for a second. Dr. V, time for you to say something smart. Uh-oh. Or is it me? No, I'm here.
be.
Are we all there?
Yep, we're
Dustin,
all
you
here. We're all
froze.
here.
Okay.
Oh, the
Uh-oh.
recording stopped, but we need to start it again. And we're back. Okay, we'll figure that out.
Got some editing to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No worries.
So the brain was the first thing that was developed in your mom's belly. So the
Mhm.
brain is the master controller, sending signals to create your arms, limbs, organs, everything. So tapping into the brain and healing with the brain first and the nervous system first allows your body to heal naturally, because the body
So
is self-regulating and it all comes back to the brain. And then
Mm.
this brain is encased in water all the
so
way down your spine.
So just
Mm.
to tie in the nutritional component there, that's why folate is so critical if you're planning to have a child, because that folate helps, it is prolific in developing the brain and nervous system long before most people ever even know that they're pregnant. So those of you that are contemplating pregnancy or having a child, make sure you're on a good folic acid, not folic acid, but a folate supplement to nourish that brain and that development. Spina bifida, a non-development of part of that spinal column, is a folate deficiency that happens when mom is deficient in that folate. So that is why that is the key component for every prenatal vitamin on earth. Every decent one at least, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
keep
Thank you so
going.
much for that.
Mhm, mhm.
And the water is a polar molecule. It has a positive and negative charge, and that allows for this movement, the energy potential that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So getting into more of how we're all interconnected, the body is about 70% water, depending on if you're male, female, what age you are. But also the Earth's surface is about 70% water.
Oh, wow.
Right, showing this interconnectedness. So I'm going to keep going, but the Earth has its own self-regulating mechanism. So it has its own balance and flow, and so does the body. And I believe it really comes down to this water that's going on inside of us, the water inside of us that's in that movement that's creating this spiritual energy, we'd like to call. Now, Dr. Maruso Emoto, he actually talked to water and had emotions next to water, and then he froze them. And this turned out to show that water is impressionable and it holds cellular memory. Have you guys heard of this?
Yeah, it's so cool. That is so cool.
And I've also seen it where they've microwaved water and showed how damaged the molecule is. So,
Yeah.
so don't microwave your tea and your water, that sort of thing, because you're really damaging the molecule there. So, I mean, we had a similar experience where we were microwaving, warming up the water for formula with our daughter, and she was getting all colicky and a mess. So we had to, realize or remember that microwave wasn't the way to go. Use a normal bottled water. Of course, she was nursed pretty much solely, but when we did have, the additional formula, that was a problem.
Yeah.
And again, it affected her emotionally because of that damaged water.
Well, and I want to add to this too, Dr. Becker, that you think about that, how much influence is that? And you're talking about the energy of what you're bringing to the table, literally, when you're sitting down with somebody. If you take that minute to be grateful over the food, you're creating that energy in the food, right? And in all the water molecules that are in that food. But if you're having a fight with somebody over dinner, that food is not going to be as nourishing to you. So this really is just another reminder to everybody to keep that time sacred and know that what you're putting in your body is being infused with the emotions that you're experiencing while you're putting that in your body. Correct?
I always have my patients set, well, I don't always, but I set intentions for whenever I meet with my patients, but sometimes my patients also set intentions for themselves, which is very powerful.
For their meal. They have an intention for the meal is what you mean?
Oh, treatment.
No, when they come in for a session with me for a treatment. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it was years ago, I did this rice experiment myself where I put rice in jars and I spoke to each one. And over the course of time, the one that I put are we breaking up? The one that I put loving thoughts into didn't get moldy.
Wow.
This is a picture off the internet. I have an old picture somewhere in an old phone. But I wanted to do it myself since Emoto's experiments aren't on PubMed, right? They're in a book. So I actually went ahead and did it myself and saw it with my own eyes. And I was like, yes, this is real. Water does hold. And I encourage you guys to do it yourself. It really, and anybody who's watching, and it just shows the power of your own thoughts. So I made this image on ChatGPT. I thought it was really cool and to put it in here. Neil deGrasse, I saw him on a TikTok and he was saying, oh, water is highly impressionable and it's really awesome because if you really think about it, the same water that Abraham Lincoln drank is in your body also, and you're also peeing it out. Like it's all connected. And he said there's science to prove that. And I believe that this is the basis of healing and being healthy, is that water is holding this memory and it has information and it holds the directionality and how we can improve the quality of our life and reduce pain, symptoms, release trauma. And that's what I've been really seeing over the past 6 months, is that when I'm balancing the nervous system through spinal flow, is that people start making the right decisions, is that the stress is coming off their back and they're more tapped into their prefrontal cortex. And it gives them an awareness and a slow down to be like, hey, I actually do want to eat this fruit. And it taps them into this intuition that their body already knows, that they're naturally gravitated towards eating healthy because stress is not on them anymore, right? Because stress can fog our decisions. So the healing field has been, I don't even know how long, but for it to be held in cellular memory in water, is that there's all these great healers and doctors, and that we're tapped into that same energy and information, and it lives inside of our body already. It's not something that we have to always be grabbing outside of us and say, this is the technique, this is the answer. Is that, hey, we have the answers, we really need to slow down. I was looking at a ton of different studies and going back and forth that there's not, so the moon, whenever we have a full moon, is we get high tides and low tides in our ocean. And there's this gravitational pull that the moon is having over the earth. And I wanted to say, hey, we have so much water in our body. Is this affecting our body too? This gravitational pull, since we're basically magnets, basically electrical chemistry. How is that affecting us? And there's a lot of controversial studies going back and forth that, oh, we get lower blood pressure, we get higher blood pressure on a full moon. And they really contradict each other. And I think that the reason why they contradict each other is because we're not tapped in, we're not hanging out with Mother Nature anymore. We're tapped into our phones.
Yeah.
That we have this disconnection from our earth that's going on. And it's creating, we're not tapping into our own healing ability. Have you guys noticed that during a full moon, there's more accidents, you're more emotional, things just happen?
Another mechanism at play that goes along with that is parasites get more active during the full moon, right? Parasites cause GABA to be low. GABA is our primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, right? So we get a little less inhibited, drive a little stupid, or things like that put people in hospitals. You say things that we shouldn't, that creates agitation in a relationship. Those are all potential signs of low GABA that's also going along potentially during these full moon cycles. So that's a great time to, kill parasites as well, as we're clearing our emotional baggage and making better choices.
So this is a picture of the fascia in the human body, showing where the water is not just in the spine, it's in every single cell and tissue, and it's the way we think, feel, is connected to that water, is it affecting all the chemistry and organs in our body. So what is stuck energy? Stuck energy is, emotions are meant to keep moving. And it's a problem when we deny, pretend like it's not there, or we just don't have enough time to deal with it. And I noticed that's the biggest problem, is that people are not slowing down and focusing on what they're feeling in order to move it through. And it takes just a simple awareness of, yeah, that's what I would describe what I'm feeling. And then just an awareness with a loving intention, and energy moves. Stuck energy is caused by trauma, suppression, lack of tools. This is a picture of the belief code. And this goes through all the different chakras and the different beliefs associated with each chakra. Just a little clip of that. Because I know, Dustin, you said that you were working with some beliefs.
Yep, for sure. And I do go in there's a point where you do look at which chakra is, most impacted and what are the beliefs that are associated with that. Well, so I love this graphic. It's beautiful.
So I wanted to add this in here because we all love nutrition and how that changes our body, and we metabolize emotions just like we metabolize food. Everything needs to keep moving in our body. So Dr. Bradley Nelson uses a magnet to move this stuck energy. He uses it over the governing meridian like this. But really, I noticed that our hands are polar and act like a magnet. So the loving intention alone releases this emotional stagnation that's going on inside the body. As long as you have the intention, because water is highly impressionable.
Yeah, wow.
Hands have polarity. Of the palm side is positive, back side is negative. Fingers, each finger actually has a polarity to it too. They go positive, negative, based on the direction of the meridians as well. So yeah, if you're giving that positive intention, right? That's the palms up, right? That's palms over the area that we're trying to work. I imagine is a lot of part of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. So you use a chart and use muscle testing? Is that what you guys use?
Yes, most of it's memorized.
Yeah. Or it's over his right shoulder there.
Yeah. But yes, Scott Walker created a chart similar to that. And I was looking at, a lot of the emotions are parallel to the organ associations you have here as well.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that these are all in categories, and I hardly ever find the emotions in certain organs where they should be. Because the body has its own system. What I do notice is if someone has a weak shoulder or they had an injury to a shoulder, example, that the emotions are getting stuck there because that's their weak point.
For sure.
Like the path of least resistance. So like this chart can say, okay, I feel abandonment in my heart, but I'll find it in the kidneys, the liver.
Got it.
But also, it's good to know where standardized, because I'll show you later on how the posture affects with the organs. But I could say, oh, you're feeling abandonment and anxiety. And someone could be like, yeah, that's kind of it. But we're just giving labels and giving the patient a path for them to recognize the feeling inside of them in order for it to move. Because it's the awareness that's ultimately moving that emotion.
You also made a good point that helps people and can help people understand why chronic illness is such an issue, right? If they get that injury in the shoulder, as you made example of, and then every time emotional stuff happens from that point on, gets stuffed away in that shoulder, right? Or in that organ or that area where they've had the problem. So that's part of what makes chronic illness a challenge. It takes healing, not just healed, but it takes a journey to get through all the emotional junk that gets overlaid over the years, potentially decades, that has been storing all that emotional problem. So we need to get it nutritionally solid, get the emotions out, out of the way. And then we have to kind of go backwards through clearing all that out, just to help people understand why, they've had a problem for 10 years. And, as a practitioner, I'd love to see it completely gone the minute they walk out of the office. And that is ultimately the goal. But the reality is then some of those emotional triggers are going to come back and bring it back. One of my favorite examples of this is or a very common example is a person that has had all kinds of chiropractic for their neck pain after an auto accident, but nobody addressed the red Honda that hit them, right? So, then we get rid of the emotional triggers. Otherwise, they get adjusted, they feel great, and then they see another red Honda, and boom, they're back where they started from. So we need to get these emotional codes, these emotional triggers out, so that the adjustments can hold, the physiology can function and work, muscles contract and as they're supposed to, so the body functions in a healing, productive, vital way.
Well said.
With the recurring emotions that come back, I love to always mention they're coming back for a reason, whether you're conscious of it or not. It's moving through you, and it's here to help you out and to navigate you on your journey. It's helping you with the next step in your journey. For some reason, it keeps coming back. It could be the same emotion, like panic or anxiety from the auto accident, but ultimately it's for you. And
Every,
I love to mention that it doesn't have to be conscious. Like releasing emotions doesn't have to be, oh, now I'm having a panic attack. Oh, now I'm crying on the table. It doesn't have to be verbally expressed in order to release. It could
right.
be consciously, because emotions cannot fit into a box. Everyone experiences them uniquely. And that's why this is so taboo, because we can't really put our finger on it and label it and say, this is what it is.
Right.
So
We were talking about.
one person's anxiety is another person's panic.
Mm.
I like the line, nothing happens to you, everything happens for you, right? Paradigm shift.
Right.
Use the traumas, I mean, even as crazy as, getting rear-ended, that typically happens when a person's running on overwhelm, right? And their
Yes.
life isn't, in chaos, right? And okay, you got rear-ended, it's somebody else's fault, but they're still running on, redlining in their life typically. Mhm.
There's the Heal documentary on Netflix. And what's the point of getting a cancer diagnosis if you're going to get through the other side of that diagnosis and overcome cancer? What's the point of getting through it if you're, after looking death in the face, you're not going to completely revamp your life and live every moment to its fullest? Like, what's the point?
Right.
That's why my book's called the Headache Advantage. It's all
Right.
about taking advantage of the pain that we're dealing with because it's there for a reason. It's trying to redirect our path.
So in my practice, when you guys use muscle testing as well, and I
Mhm.
put their hand on their forehead, and if an organ pops up as, oh, red flag here, the nervous system shuts down when you touch that organ, I put their hand on their head like this, and that tells me that a thought is creating a problem in that organ.
Huh. Very
Yes.
similar to what you do, Dr. V.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Scott Walker uses the emotional points on the forehead. I use those and hand modes as well.
Well, I
Kelly?
The next,
when I tell people that you see people when they have an emotional experience, they often do this. Their hand
Right.
goes to their head naturally, right?
Oy vey.
Oh, yeah. Like, why is that happening?
Right.
pulling their hair out, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next is a fist in the stomach, which shows me that there's an undigested emotion, or they're digesting how they're feeling. Like they really haven't processed it yet, and they're currently working it out.
Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
That's a fist in the stomach.
Well, and I mean, and it can go the other way too, right? Like they're having stomach problems because they haven't been able to digest an experience or an emotion, correct?
Or they're the same thing.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Well, it's funny. I mean, not to go all the way down to the bottom of that, but I just last week was working with this lady who is having a really hard time going to the bathroom, right? And so my question finally came to her. So, what is it? Do you have any problem letting go of the past? And like her and her husband just started laughing because what?
Mhm.
You kidding me? Of course. So there is an emotional component with all of that, right? All the way down the through there.
Yeah.
Years You're on the opposite side of that. Years ago, I'd had a gentleman that had the runs. He literally had a van built with a bathroom in it because he could not be away from a bathroom. Anywhere he went, he had to be close to, some sort of an outhouse or bathroom, and watch his daughter's graduation from the back, standing next to the outhouse. And so, we went through the typical, nutritional eval and that sort of stuff. I said, well, when did this begin? He says, when somebody had broken into his house and put a shotgun in his mouth saying, "Where's the money?"
Oh,
Oh.
Literally scared the poop out of him, right?
Ah,
And
oh.
so we had to clear the emotions of having a shotgun in the mouth and how that manifested in open ileocecal, open valve Houston, all the digestive emotions that went along with that.
wow.
Yeah.
The main point for this presentation is the interconnectedness of everything.
Right.
How every herb you take affects how you feel
Mm.
and your posture. This physical, chemical, and emotional wholeness that's going on in your body, and how touching one point of that triangle is going to ultimately affect every other one.
Definitely.
Whenever I do liver detoxes as a group in my practice, there's always people are bringing up, oh, I was so bringing the anger holds on to the liver holds on to anger. It tends to hold on to anger or just frustration. And that comes up a lot in detoxes. Do you guys notice that?
Yes. Yeah,
For sure. I always think of, you want to figure out what the emotions associated with the liver are, think of an alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
Anger,
Right.
frustration, resentment. They're stressing that liver, and is, chicken or the egg, right? Was it the alcohol that stressed the liver and made them drink, or were they drinking because they're trying to self-medicate because of liver problem, right?
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
In Chinese medicine, the liver is the house of the soul. So at night, the soul goes into the liver.
Ah, okay.
I wanted to get into some postural distortions that are correlated with energetic distortions. I'm starting with the adrenal glands. So if you see this picture of the dog on, I don't know, you're right, is that whenever a dog gets scared, they put their tail in between their legs. And that's exactly what our body is doing too. If you notice that something stresses you out, or you get triggered, or you see a bear, is that you're going to clench your glutes and your tailbone's going to get tucked under. So the body is always expressing what it's repressing or hasn't processed out yet. So this is a posture. It can be kind of hard to see because you can't really notice sometimes. This is a more dramatic photo of the tailbone tucked under, but it can be ever so slight. And going through, when you see a fear, activates the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the sympathetic chain goes off, and then you clench your glute and tailbone. And this also gives another feedback, because you're putting stress on the lumbars, for your adrenal glands to go off even more. And then we lose our decision making. Underneath it all is that we lose awareness and lack attention, fight, flight, or flee.
Great slide.
Yeah, great slide.
Some of the emotions associated with this is muddled instability, paranoia, simply can't ever figure it out, high functioning, and then depression. So anxiety and then depressed. Feeling like your feet can't touch the floor, like you're not truly grounded, and you're in the survival mode, not thriving.
Wow.
Any muscles you want to attach to that posture?
I mean, if we're talking fear and paranoid and so on, those are kidney emotions. So that's all the paraspinals, the psoas muscle. So all the low back, psoas muscle attaches to all three different locations of all five low back vertebra. So that and the kidney meridian goes down the back of the leg. So sciatica, a lot of the low back pain. With the adrenals ad is above, renal, kidney, adrenal is it, that whole fight or flight you were talking about. But the kidneys is a massive thing for low back pain. L5 goes out with kidney problems. L5 goes the lowest vertebra in the back. The lumbar 5 goes out with adrenal issues as well. And then the sacroiliac joint gets unstable. They have challenges sitting for a long time. Those are all adrenal fatigue problems, because that SI joint tends to kind of flare as we sit, and when that's compromised, it becomes irritated, sitting too long. So that's that anger, or that's that adrenal adrenaline challenge that you talked about, and then combine that with the kidney, and then we have all the minerals that go along with that, right? Kidneys is a sodium potassium balance that helps keep the water where it's supposed to be, as you're talking about, the water flow through the spine, through the spinal column, and CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. So yeah, as you're saying, it's all connected, and that's what makes it so fun to be a doctor or to be a clinician to help these people, right? Is to try to pull back the veil and find these the least common denominator that's going to create the biggest change in this person's life to then inspire them to more greatness and to inspire them to continue to make change and see how good. I mean, for me, it's like I'm addicted to seeing how good I can feel, how good I can perform, right?
Same.
Mhm.
And it's a healthy addiction because there's no ending, right?
Right,
Well,
right.
and I hope everybody out there who's watching this is seeing the consistency of the adrenal stress in your own lives and all of those things as they take shape in your life, right? Because we are, as a society, living as if our adrenal glands are as big as our kidneys. And they're not.
Right. Little walnut shaped gland.
Yeah. And like you said, the longer they sit, the worse it is, right? And a lot of people, that's just kind of the way the life is going. And you see this posture so much. And to do the opposite of that, I ask people to do that. It feels so almost uncomfortable for them to move, their spine in the opposite direction. But that's obviously something that hopefully will get their attention and bring them in that and bring them back to balance.
So is the posture creating the emotion, or is the emotion creating the posture?
Yes, I think is the answer.
Both. You passed.
Well, and nutrition.
Yes, yes.
Before we went live, I talked about a
Right.
presentation I did or a paper I wrote for the International College of Applied Kinesiology, demonstrate how trans fats create a weakness of the lower spleen-related muscles, lower trap muscles that cause that rolled forward. In chiropractic, we call it upper cross syndrome, where the shoulders are rolling forward. And that's your mom saying, put your shoulders back, stand up, be confident. That's trans fats can cause that. So then we've got the trans fats in there. Then the trans fats, weaken us, and we take on store emotions because we're not flowing properly. It all fits together.
Yeah, we're gonna I'm excited to hear more about that when we get to. I'm gonna go from the ground up here.
Yeah, I love
Let's
that.
go. Found strong foundation. Build your house on the rock.
Well, and if you put this slide, it reminds me of, I remember hearing decades ago, when people retire, they start to get these hip problems, right? Because there's so much more where they start thinking about their career, they don't know where to go next, right? And please talk more about this. I mean, clearly you're showing it right now.
Yeah, so the hips propel us forward. They're the main wheels, our tires, the gears that get going, the walk, the step. So when there's an imbalance there, we can feel like we're stuck in the past, can't move forward, indecisive, not feeling supported, because this is also our support system that keeps us in an upright posture. Now, also, we have to mention that we have our reproductive organs right there in front of those hips. So this creative insecurity is also there. And a creative insecurity is not sure on where to go next, insecure on the direction that you're going in when you're feeling your emotions, right? So it's the same thing, and it's all really connected. So often these pelvic imbalances can help with infertility issues, cramps, balancing out estrogen and testosterone. And also those imbalances in hormones can affect the way that your hips move and your posture. Also, yeah, but I see with also the patches, the estrogen patches, things like that, causing disruptions
in the hips. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to find the name of a book I read called, I think it was called Rethinking Retirement, which is all about that. Retirement is not about, okay, I've worked, now I get to sit on the couch and, watch soap operas all day, right? It's like, what is your purpose now? Okay, you don't have to work for money, you don't have to work to pay the bills now. How are you going to still produce and make a difference in the world, right? So many people get lost or stuck with that, and don't have community, don't have a purpose or reason to get up, and and their hips go, right?
Any muscles associated with this that you want to bring up? I know gluten, right?
Well, yeah. So glute is hormones, right? And so that when that's not functioning chronically, not functioning well, that creates a lot of that wear and tear on the acetabulum on the joint, the hip joint itself. We talked about the psoas, which is the primary hip flexor. That's going to help keep us moving forward. That's associated with kidney function. The glutes max as a whole, that typically tends to be immune related. But again, that's also, we need a strong firing glute max to propulse us forward. That toe off mechanism, that is again, as a category associated with overall immune function, spleen, which is oversympathetic, low self-esteem, disgust, emotionally. Yeah.
So we're bringing up all these different aspects and
Yeah.
right, but I really want to bring it back to, hey, the nervous system is connecting everything together in these areas.
Yes.
And it's like all of these signs are kind of like a circuit, like you have like a circuit breaker that's going off, and it's like just a signal showing us, oh, something's wrong here, something's off balance. Not to say something's wrong, but something's off balance, something's not working, we can improve in this area. So the nervous system is always showing us the way to go and how the body, it can balance itself. So we really look at these as more as signals and communication and the way the body wants to speak and to release or to integrate something new into the body. Like the belief system, like a new belief.
Mm-hmm.
You're either removing something or putting something in order to make it whole. Now the lower back. So you've seen this sway back?
Yep.
Of course.
This can be seen as someone that's overconfident, like their chest is tilted up. And this is an increase in the lordosis of the spine, but this can lead to not feeling connected with other people because we're being overconfident. So there's a pattern of feeling withdrawn, but then going out and having a big drive. And it's this driven by fear, the need to control. And this is really connected to digestion and that inner fire that's going on inside of our digestive cavity down here, which is causing that upward hyperlordosis. And this is seen with imbalances in cortisol and insulin. Any muscles associated with this, Dr. Vrzal, you want to bring up?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have, quadratus lumborum is large intestine, right? So most low back pain is an intestinal problem, and we've got all the foods that can disrupt that, and the gut biota that's a massive thing in current literature. Then the rectus femoris. We did our last podcast was about some of the perils of non-steroidal anti-inflammatories or NSAIDs, and how they will compromise small intestine, they will compromise digestive problems, causing a weakness of the knee. And then they take anti-inflammatories for the knee pain and get stuck in that loop and that cycle, right, as they're trying to get through life. So again, a lot of the muscles, the abdominal muscles are also small intestine. So a lot of those muscles on the front side of the body, they're related to small intestine function, with the quadratus lumborum supporting the low back, attached from the pelvis to the ribs. That's a large intestine. So those all, again, digestion is causing a lot of these things that, physical therapists might be trying to strengthen, or somebody might be trying to strengthen in the gym, but they're not firing properly because they've got the emotional triggers, or because their gut bacteria, their digestion is all out of whack. Medical terms, out of whack.
And again, it's the body's nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord, and all the nerves that are working on balancing out the body. So if there's an imbalance somewhere and it's showing up in your posture, that's a red flag, an indicator of, hey, I need to look at what I'm eating. Maybe what I'm eating is creating a physical imbalance and making me feel withdrawn and not connected in life. And I have to overcompensate with an ego, right? Maybe it's the food. Maybe it's a past trauma. Never felt like you're good enough, right? That's making me sit in this posture and making me eat like crap. It's really all connected. And it's the way the body is trying to figure it out and work it out. And it's our job to stop these patterns and to help people recognize and to become aware of the patterns that are going on in their body.
Right.
And really, it's all of these muscles are indicators of the nervous system and its expression. And the body is trying to show you, it's an intuitive messenger saying, hey, this posture is an imbalance, right? And I believe that these postures are being shown to all your friends and family can see your posture, but sometimes we're completely unaware. And it's our job as practitioners, doctors, healers to, hey, it looks like your body's trying to express this. Is this true? And ask questions and be curious and see how they want to proceed with the stuck energy that they may be feeling. Yeah. Here's your neck flexors, Dr. Vrzal.
Right. So the neck, and I think you said you're tying into the thyroid. Neck extensors turn off when digestive enzymes are low. One of the activators of digestive enzymes is the thyroid. So that sets up the tension headaches that is discussed at length in my book, The Headache Advantage. But yeah, then the anterior scaling muscles also associated with thyroid function. Neck extensors, if it's unilateral, if it's just one side, that tends to be typically a yeast overgrowth problem. So then we're talking blood sugar problems and pancreas, and again, people making bonehead dietary choices, trying to compensate for, like as you mentioned, self-esteem issues or not good enough concerns like that as well. Yes.
So there's two here that I have. So I see this, that in the culture, in our community, there's the empath. You guys aware of that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And this kyphosis and this hunchback is a clear indicator of an empath that is cutting off their own needs and putting everybody else on their back.
That's one I think that's something for a lot of people, especially in our line of work. Right there. See a lot of chiropractors start to be in this direction because they are taking the world on their shoulders. They're taking on the problems of the people that are coming to them, and that's a challenge to keep that from happening. And we're going to hopefully get into some things that we can do to prevent this from all of this happening, right, guys?
Oh yeah.
Right. One of them we talked about, the probiotic, was that one, Truth or Trend number 2 or something. We talked about oxytocin.
Yep.
Right. Reuteri as the precursor to oxytocin that was on your last slide there. That's a good easy fix to getting your gut bacteria correct.
Yeah.
You have the building blocks as precursors to oxytocin, which is the neurotransmitter of love and bonding. And this world needs more love and bonding to help reduce some of this, to be in community, right?
Dr. Rebecca, can we get these slides? Because I kind of need to show people these slides to remind them that they need to prioritize themselves. You know what I mean? Sometimes you need to see
good point.
Clearly, right? Because they need permission often to prioritize themselves. They forget. And there's there's so much tied into that. But sometimes you need a visual to help them kind of put the pieces together for themselves.
Yes, yeah. You've seen this dowager's hump. It's not the same thing as a kyphosis. It's more on right where the neck meets the thoracic. Right here, you guys see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is somebody that has trouble speaking their truth, or they have trauma with nobody listening to them and they have to swallow their own thoughts. So this creative expression, standing up for themselves, needs to be patterned into their nervous system. So singing in the shower, while you're driving, just learning how to speak your truth again is very crucial. And this affects the thyroid.
And the vagus nerve. Right?
Yeah.
I think everybody recognizes this picture. They see people every day who have that. And that's why these visuals are so helpful and so powerful. Thank you for them. Yeah.
And just when you look at someone and like, oh, okay, they're going to have trouble speaking their truth, whether they're aware of it or not.
Right.
And those patients that fill out the intake form and then they come to you saying, oh, I never said this, this, and this, and this.
Right.
Then we go to C1, C2, which is that jutting of the chin forward. This is literally our head is stuck in the future and the body is slightly leaned forward.
Huh.
This is someone that has trouble connecting with their body and getting in touch with the wisdom that's inside their body. So it's also the third eye area where there's no clarity. They're really stuck in their thoughts, and thoughts are endless. They can just keep going, going, going. But when we slow it down, we're more in our body. So melatonin and serotonin, there's a big connection with this. And our thoughts are not aligned with our soul, our purpose, our body.
When you see somebody like this, what is some of the action steps that you would suggest that they would do? You know, because a chiropractor looks at this and thinks, okay, they need to stand up straight, or they, you know what I mean? You need to do these physical things to try to correct that. But from an emotional or life action step, what would you say would be the primary ones that this individual needs to do?
Limiting beliefs, thinking some better thoughts in order to interrupt that pattern, because the mind is always looking for the next answer. And it's like, if we think too much, the mind is really running off of fear. So it's training the mind saying, hey, we can have more loving thoughts, and it will stop the recurring need to conquer that fear with another thought. So it's like an addictive thought pattern, right? So when we bring in better beliefs, then the mind's like, okay, I don't really need to think about things anymore. And I can be in my body and feel safe, because the mind can just keep, oh, I need the next answer. I need the next safety. What's going to make me feel better?
Yeah.
It's this mental trip that's going on that's not aligned with the wisdom of the body. And that's thinking about the future. Life has its own plans. We're never going to think about we're never going to be able to outthink life.
Well, and I think it's a challenge for a lot of people to just be in the moment, right? There's so many things that are either pulling us in the past or bringing us to the forward. And if you have any tricks or not tricks, but, you know, any things that you've seen clinically to help people be present in the moment, I think would be very helpful in general for this, for sure.
Trust.
Trust. Nervous system regulation and spinal flow technique is really, so far everybody's standing upright. I mean, I've seen crazy changes for sure, but that bringing them back to center where everybody is slightly leaning forward that I've seen, and they're stuck in the future. What do I do next? And then it's great to mention that there's a ton of people that are, what's the next supplement I need? What's the next exercise? What's the next, when are we going to trust? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So nervous system regulation and getting the body out of flight or fight response. The body knows the way. Yeah, I'm open for more discussion and your questions.
Well, we were going to talk about, you know, ways to help prevent any of this from coming in the first place. And Dr. V, you had some thoughts on that to get people started and thinking about that.
Yeah. So Dr. Walker talks about, people that have recurring emotional triggers or have a lot of emotional triggers is a need for, he uses trace minerals, B12, which I find great value in as a multi-mineral supplement. The concept is we need minerals, and our food source for those minerals are organic vegetables. So keeping the organic vegetables going, which are also going to be alkalizing, they're also going to have some of the B vitamins. These are all things that to help keep our body functioning properly so that we're less prone to store the emotions. My quote, Dustin likes doctor quotes. My quote for this is be more rock-like than sponge-like, right? So rocks are our minerals. They give us the rock-like ability to not store every emotion that comes down the pike. We don't want to be the sponge that takes on everything that happens that often, which is kind of the conundrum of chronic illness, where we become more sponge-like and everything that happens in and around us becomes a peril and a further physiologic compromise. So that's the part of the prevention. The other prevention is exercise. You know, the runner's high is a dopamine hit. And so dopamine is our neurotransmitter of hey, it's okay. It's the precursor to oxytocin, right? So it's the neurotransmitter of that everything's right in the world. It also gives us the ability to organize and collect our thoughts. So I mean, I've written half my speeches, you know, out on, well, probably all of them really, out on my bike, you know, getting exercise and doing that. So, or, you know, handled, you know, the loss of my mom when, you know, how am I, you know, how's this going to work for me instead of against me, right? And gives us the opportunity to collect our thoughts and to organize and to come up with a solution, if you will, during that time of exercise, during that time of, well, then there's also that be still and know that I'm here, you know, that where you take a minute to pause and to question and to which is so hard to do. I mean, I'm in Southern California. You guys are all, you know, well, you're Northern California, Rebecca, that, I mean, we're in these areas, these meccas of go, go, go. And this is probably one of the biggest glitches in my personality is that uh, resting for me feels like I need to be getting something accomplished,
Right.
you
Right.
know? And so we need that time, that downtime to get the creative juices flowing, to get our thoughts organized, to get our, you know, to plan, right? To plan ahead and do things properly. So exercise to collect our thoughts and get it organized, eat the organic vegetables, take a mineral supplement if we need, which we probably do because it's hard to get appropriate minerals because a lot of our soils are void there. And keep the gut bacteria correct. And be still. Take a Sabbath day. Take a break.
Mm.
It's okay. Allow yourself that time because we need it to restore, to heal the adrenals, to be calm, cool, and collected.
As I'm looking at this, Dr. Rebecca, I mean, it's such powerful, amazing, wonderful information that you're bringing to the table. I feel like we almost need to do a series on each of these body types because it's so much for one person to unpack looking at all of that. Is
Yeah.
there one that you tend to see more than any other type coming into your office or in the world these days, would you say?
Tucking of the tailbone,
The tucking of the tailbone. Okay. Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight response,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
because there's just so many other triggers that are constantly reinforcing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you look on social media, there's something else, or the news, there's something else reinforcing the trauma that you had when you were 5, micro trauma, macro trauma, like just
Yeah.
maybe getting picked on. Now you're looking at the news and it makes you feel like you're getting picked on. And now that body's still feeling like you're getting picked on and you're getting traumatized over and over and over again. So that fight or flight response, we tend to think of it as like drastic. Oh, they're in a fight or flight response and they're always stressed out and their eyes are dilated and it's some macro thing, but there's all these micro traumas that just keep sitting on top of each other.
Mm. Wow.
You just reminded me of a shaping experience I had as a child in grade school. There was a kid that had been held back 2 years, so he's 2 years older than everybody, and he was the class bully. You know, he was bullying everybody, and I was one of his targets. And I remember one day, you know, he was chasing me around the playground, and finally I said, I'm done. I'm done running from this guy." I just turned around, fists up, like, "Let's go. Let's end this." You know, and I popped him. I gave him a good one. I got you know, my eye got bloody, and I'm like, "Hey, I don't. It was all worth it." You know, I'm done running from this guy, and went to the principal, and the principal did everything he could to not say congratulations. You know, he's like, "Right on. You stood up to this bully that I've had to see in the office every day." You know, so and it just. I got done. I was done running around with my tail between my legs, and I came out fighting, and I guess I've been living that way ever since.
Yeah, and that's how we heal that pattern. And I'm so glad that you fought back, right? Sometimes that's not a good situation to do that, but the body really wants to express itself, or it's going to hold that holding pattern, and it's going to play out in your world and in ways that are not so comfortable until you do stick up for yourself. Yeah.
Right.
Well, this is way longer than we ever go on these because there's so much here, and I love it. And I do want to end the recording here soon so we can get this online. But is there one last thing, one word of guidance that you would give anybody who's listened in on this? Is where do they start? Where do they go next? Right? What's the next thing for them to do when it comes to this?
I would say enjoy living in your body and make sure that every day you're doing something that makes you feel good and wholesome, not in a quick fix way, but in a slow moving, enjoyment way, so that you can tap into your inner wisdom that's always living inside of you, inside of your nervous system, that's always directing you the way that you should go in terms of health. Because when we make decisions from a balanced, regulated nervous system, we ultimately always have all the answers on how to heal and fix ourselves.
I love it.
Well stated.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, just in the interest of a link to the YouTube recording, I'm gonna say thank you all for watching. I'm gonna stop the recording now, but hopefully in the future we'll have Dr. Rebecca back and we'll break these down in a little more tighter, more focused pieces of this, so we can make sure we're constantly supporting people and understanding that there is so much more that you can do to help yourself become whole. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Fun.